I know what you're thinking, Daz, it's April, what the heck are you doing talking about the off-season? Well, considering that my social media feeds are drowning with all sorts of trade and draft talk already, I thought I would bring to the table just how crazy this off-season is set to be. So, let's dissect it, let's talk about it. And we're going to do this in three parts. The first one being the picks themselves, the second one being the draft, and the third one being the risk and reward of your rebuild. So let's get into part one. So under the new rules, clubs are going to have access and the ability to trade their 25, 6 and 7 picks. Now, clubs have already done deals on their 25 picks because they could do that in the 24 draft. Therefore, those deals are already set in stone. So if you think about it, Essendon have got Melbourne's first round pick. Hawthorn have got Carlton's first round pick because West Coast inevitably have made the wrong decision so far. Thank you. That's much appreciated. So, what the heck does this mean? Well, the good news for a lot of clubs out there, especially if you've got quite shrewd recruiting, is the odds of you not giving up a lot for fringe guys is only going to increase. Hawthorn have been celebrated in the media this year for picking up guys without using a whole lot of draft picks, whether it's someone that's just blatantly a steal like Jack Scrimshaw, or whether it's paying not a whole lot for a guy like Jarman Impey. Those kind of deals are going to become more prominent, which means the gap between good and bad recruiters is going to be further amplified. That is also going to mean that when you do go through a rebuild, what you spend your third and fourth round picks on, if they're not the 18-year-olds in the national draft, is only going to become more and more important. If there are fringe 22 guys that clubs can identify to fill a hole, even if it's giving up a 26 third and a 27 third round draft pick, those two together are not going to be a whole lot of value to a club that need to fill list holes with experienced players. That is inevitably a good thing. We'll get more into the rebuilding side of things a little bit later on, but considering that this is going to be the first year of clubs doing this, the really big question that I've got throughout this process is, what is a 27 first round draft pick actually worth? Because fair to say that Christian Petrarca might be in a Collingwood jumper if this rule was in effect last year. Cal Toomey wrote a really good article that stated that if it was possible for 3 first-round picks to be on the table, and I'm not 100% sure that it is, by the way, but if Collingwood were able to offer up, say, a 2024 first, 25 first, and 26 first in order to get Petrarca and maybe a 2026 second or something like that, could that deal have gone through last year? Absolutely it could have, and maybe how different things might look for Melbourne with extra picks there. Also including giving up their first in the future in order to pick up Langford and Lindsay. One of them was already their own pick, I understand that, but I digress. Player movement and pick movement is never going to be at the forefront more than it is this year. And if you are annoyed at mainstream media shows overblowing off-field stuff, it's only going to increase as our trade and draft periods become more Americanized, or more importantly, NBA-ized, if you will. It's pretty funny in the NBA at the moment that supposedly the Milwaukee Bucks' superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo, and to Basil Zemplis, that actually is how you pronounce his name, they're talking about teams giving up their 2029 picks and 2030 and 31 picks in order to get him in. A team like the San Antonio Spurs, for example, because of something called the Stephian rule, which I'm not going to explain in this video, they would have to give up later assets as well as some in the now. And that's going to be the case here. What clubs do with their picks 2 years in advance is going to be super interesting and on the table. Clubs are also going to be able to use these picks in order to live trade on the night in order to break in and get the guys they want. This actually could mean that draft selection times, you know how they're 5 minutes a pick, there's actually a chance they get longer, which will suck to be a part of and experience, to be honest. But if it means my club gets better, I can live with that. But we've all got access now to our 25 selections as per last year's trade period, and our picks in 26 and 27, which means more assets are going to get to be offered for out of contract and, more importantly, contracted players. Hello, Zach Butters and Harley Reid, if you're listening. So more flexibility there and more value out of players is going to be key. Think of the Jeremy Cameron trade. GWS received 3 first-round picks for Jezza all in one season, whereas we could be looking at guys getting 4 first-round draft picks in order to get maybe a couple of seconds back and a player. We'll go through a mock situation like that a little bit later on, but that's definitely on the cards as clubs try to figure out what the heck their early picks or their first round picks 2 years from now are going to be worth on the open market or as a part of other deals. But from a very brief standpoint, that's where we're at. Now, if you think that's confusing, let me run you through just how fucking bonkers this draft is going to be. So I'm of the opinion that the father-son rule is genuinely crap. Now, I can talk or concede that if it's outside the top 40, then you could have some sort of bidding system or dib system. I don't really have a problem with that. I really don't. But it's getting ridiculous now. It's out of hand. It needs to stop. And the reason that most fans are going to agree on this, if they haven't already, is going to be this year. Now, I also think that academies are good for the growth of the game, but the advantage that it's going to give to clubs is just batshit. But check out what's going to happen in this draft. And keep in mind that on average, we are going to be looking at about 70 kids that are drafted. So just keep that number in mind. 70. You ready? Well, let's look at the father-sons, shall we? Here is the list. Tom McGuan to Collingwood, Harry Dean to Carlton, Elijah Davey to Essendon, Kalani White to Melbourne, or Gold Coast because he's a part of their academy. Louis Callaway to Richmond, Jack Graham, Ben Graham's son, going to Geelong. Jagger Mooney is eligible to head over to the Cats as well. Boston Riccardi to the Cats, Charlie Banfield to the Eagles, Oscar Loney to Collingwood, Ben Franco to Port Adelaide, Gil Wakeland to St Kilda or Port Adelaide. You'd think that was it. Archer Grant to North Melbourne, Alex Alessio to Essendon, Oliver McManus to Freo, James O'Loughlin to Sydney, Mitch Stevens to Adelaide, and Kobe Williams to Hawthorn, who is also a part of the Western Bulldogs Academy. So take a breath and go, maybe not all of those guys will get drafted, so Daz, you're overreacting. Well, fair enough, we'll touch on those numbers in a second as well. How are the academies going? Well, at Brisbane, you've got Daniel Annabelle, Isaac Waller, Harrison Bridge, and Raphael Jisoo. Annabelle is going to be a very high draft pick. He looks a very good player. For Gold Coast, Zeke Ewell, Dylan Patterson, and Bo Adensall are all going to be picked in the top 25. It is highly likely, or if the draft was happening now, it would. Kobe Coulson, Jai Murray, Cooper Collins, and Max Hudson are also with Gold Coast, but unlikely to be top 25 picks, and I think clubs could snatch them up depending on their developmental seasons this year. Gold Coast may let them go, we'll see. Sydney have got 3 top 30 guys here with Max King, Louis Carmichael, and Noah Chamberlain. West Coast have got 2 top 40 worthy guys in Kobe Evans and Wes Wally, and a watch on Tyler Williams as well. And don't worry, other clubs can get involved with Tyson Gresham and Jack Ison to Carlton, Hussein El Akkar to the Bombers, Toby Wan to Freo, Ben Rongdit to Geelong, Goy Giath to Hawthorn, and Kai Fincher to St Kilda. Now, is every kid here going to get drafted in the national draft? Who knows? But can we all agree that even on paper, that looks pretty damn stupid? So right now we have 18 father-sons and 24 academy players. Now, by my guess, these father-sons are going to be taken in the top 30 or our top 30 prospects at this point. And I'm willing to concede again that not all of those academy kids are going to get drafted. But if I was to be asked how many do I think are top 40 prospects right now, well, those numbers look like this. 8 father-sons and 15 academy players. That is 23 of the top 40. And even if you want to knock 3 off for some reason, that's half of the top 40 are not available on the open draft. How is that allowed and okay? Now, we can't do anything about it. Whinging about it is going to achieve nothing. I understand that. But optically, it's a shit look. It's going to, even for content creators, it's going to make mock drafts look boring as batshit. Now, granted, if an olive branch is extended, thank God it's going to get harder for clubs to have dibs on these guys. And yes, I still am stingy on Hawthorn missing out on Ollie Greaves. It's bullshit that we don't get these guys. But every other club gets their academy kids, don't they? But enough about the biased rant. How have the rules changed towards academy and father-son kids? Well, I've actually got to credit the Adelaide website for this, as they have the best explanation I have seen across my research. The 20% discount will be reduced to 10%, and the new draft value index will see points attached to only the first 54 picks, which is down from the current system of the first 73. There will be more than 10,000 points shaved off the value of the index across the board, and this has been done so clubs have to give up much more in order to match bids. Clubs would not be able to match by stocking up on middle-range draft picks, circa Brisbane last year, for example. With the AFL keener for them to have to pay a fairer price for father-son and academy players, it will also make it far more difficult to match multiple bids on players in the same draft. Think of that Gold Coast haul where they picked up Ethan Reid, Jed Walter, Will Graham, and Jake Rogers. That's a pretty handsome haul for the Suns. That is going to become borderline impossible for them to do, for good, for bad, or otherwise. But, as we know, clubs will find loopholes. That's how this shit works. So effectively, trade radio this year is going to get worse, more monotonous, and more tedious. Unless I'm on it, but hey, the invitation can always be sent, guys. I'm in Sale. I know it's Gippsland, but it's not that hard to come and find me. But it's going to be rough. Is it going to be fun? I still think it can be, but I think that the sort of one-eyed or one-dimensional look at this is going to bring a lot of frustration for fans. And I think a lot of these like quote cards and quote social media posts are going to get things wrong without context, which is going to lead to an even bigger social media cesspool, which is not what we want. So finally, let's talk about the teams that are rebuilding and why good rebuilding clubs will be able to do it quickly and bad rebuilding clubs are going to effectively get relegated while staying in the league. So if you're a bad club, the good news is that good clubs could sell their premium picks that are quite recent or now a little bit easier, and you'll be able to stockpile picks and get more young players in faster, circa to what Richmond did this offseason. The bad news is that 26 and 27 picks might be used as steak knives for you to go to other clubs, especially if you're getting more up front, and draft busts will set you back massively. Let's give a pretty good example. Let's say, instead of him being a free agent, Oscar Allen could be traded. Let's just say that. And to take the Hawthorn bias out of it, let's say he's going to Brisbane. Now, regardless of what you think of Oscar Allen and his form this year, he would get himself a first and a second round pick. Now, I'm not saying that first round pick is pick 3 or anything like that, but I'm reasonably confident that a guy at 26 years of age that is a premium position to have on the field would generate that kind of trade result, I should say. So, a first and a second. Now, that may appease West Coast, don't get me wrong, but clubs now might be willing to pay more up front to get a result a little bit later. So, instead of the first and the second round pick, Brisbane might see it worth giving up 2 first round picks in order to get Oscar Allen and a second round pick back. So the pro for Brisbane is that they get Oscar Allen and a second round pick from the Eagles, and the good bit for the Eagles is they get 2 first round picks for a guy who previously might not be worth that. And then it is up to the shrewd recruiting departments to get this done. Now, the obvious pitfall of this system is the soft cap needs to have more money in it because this shit is a full-time job and clubs need to be compensated for that. But if clubs get this wrong, so Richmond nailed it with Dan Rioli. They got pick 6 and pick 20. Tick. Gold Coast got Rioli. Tick. It's not an overpay because of the result. Richmond got what they needed and so did Gold Coast. Those deals are going to become more and more frequent with probably some future steak knife picks added onto it. And they're the ones to look out for as clubs try to get back into drafts, use them again, and ensure that player and pick movement stays alive for longer, is more intriguing, and more importantly, contracts are not going to be worth the paper they're written on. Is that good for the game? Is it bad for the game? That's a whole new conversation. What it will be is exciting. And if this is confusing for you, don't worry. It will be for the whole year. But I hope this gave you somewhat of an explanation of just how crazy this is already getting and how crazy it is going to get. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. I hope you're having an amazing week. Bring on round 5. The Hawks are back, which I'm happy about, and fingers crossed you're happy as well. See you in the next video, guys. I appreciate you all watching. Goodbye.